welcome all you guys. Thanks for your participation over a weekend evening. I know it is a Saturday evening and it will be very tough. Only the dedicated and passionate people will be joining the live session. Maybe most of us might be, even myself, for most of the weekends, I will think that let me see it on the recorded video. That's what the tendency. So, first of all, for your enthusiasm and participation, I just want to thank. And with that introduction, let me ma'am gave a brief introduction about what is Microsoft Dev Geeks and what is this program is all about. So everyone is aware of that, and welcome you back for the second episode. The first episode we started this series last week, and it is going to be the second episode now. It is all the episodes are interconnected. You can relate with what is happening today and what is going to happen next week also. It is a kind of, it has been designed in such a way that always it's in a series. Okay, and today we are going to have a look on cloud computing. So what is cloud computing? This kind of buzzwords, people may think that this is going to be a buzzword, right? Even in many of the college students I'm hearing, I just want to their patient when we discuss, when we have a when we have a tea time discussion, they are saying that I just want to know the cloud computing. I just want to study about cloud computing. Can you help me in that? And I'm really surprised. What do you mean by cloud computing? What you are trying to study? So, like before doing anything, we would like we should know what we are going to do. Then only we should be able to achieve that properly. With that context, let us see what this cloud computing is all about. Then we will see we'll improvise what are all the different services available, how to use those services. We can go in detail on the upcoming episodes. Okay, so the first thing is cloud computing. I would say many of us might be thinking it is a very big terminology. One sec guys, one sec, give me a minute. Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah, sorry for the interruption guys. Yeah, so today the agenda is we'll see what is cloud computing and what like from the on what's the difference between on-prem and cloud computing. What is the purpose of moving towards cloud? How the cloud is becoming so popular? Why it is becoming so popular? So all these things we are going to see, and based upon the cloud, on the various terminologies what is a platform as a service, what is an infra as a service, what is a software as a service, and what is a serverless computing, and who are all the various vendors present in the market for the cloud computing, and what they are offering, especially what are all the what are all the new services available. All these things we are going to discuss for the next 50 minutes. Okay, so what is the cloud computing? Anyone is might be anyone did a homework on it? I think yes. I think here we don't have an option for the interactive session. Considering giving the advantage of that, I'm taking it. All of you guys might have, before attending the session, might have gone through Google and at least did some basic understanding about cloud computing. With that assumption, let me go and explain what is cloud computing is all about. It is nothing but delivering the computing services like servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence over the internet. Why do we want to do that? To offer faster innovation, flexible resources, and economies of scale. And so this is the bookiest definition, right? By looking at the definition, I think most of us might be not following the definition, right? So let us try to understand what exactly cloud computing is all about. So your cloud computing is nothing but, instead of owning on my own, I'm going to rent something. That's what, that's as simple as that. A basic example for this is, in my family, if there is a marriage is going to happen, will I build a marriage hall, or I'll book a marriage hall, use it for a day, and then pay pay for that particular day alone? the later I would prefer, and the later everyone would prefer. For the entire whole world will prefer that. Why we are not building the marriage hall on our own? Because we don't need it for the entire year. We may need it for a day or two. For that, it's ridiculous to buy, or it's ridiculous to build the entire marriage hall, right? And moreover, building or owning a marriage hall, it means that you are not the owner. You have the more responsibilities. That's how think in that aspect. I'm the owner. I'm the proud owner of that marriage hall. Yes, I agree to that. But what is the disadvantage on it? Whatever good or bad happens to that hall, I'm going to take the responsibility. So that's one important thing, right? So here, instead, when I rent something from a vendor, what are all the advantage? I don't need to care about anything else. I'm just paying it. I'm going to use it. And whatever happens to that hall, it is up to the owner or the manager of the hall. Whatever, I'm going to just pay it, right? It reduces my responsibility. I would say the first advantage of moving towards the cloud is it reduces my responsibility. And with this assumption, let's come back to our technical example. What is going to happen? So I'm going to purchase, or I'm going to start my own startup company. Let us assume that a startup company with a 10 employees or a 10 developers. I have 10 wonderful developers, and instead of each and every one of the developer requires the machine or the laptop which should be capable. The capacity of the laptop will be 32 GB RAM and 1 TB SSD hard disk with with 8 vCPUs. With a, basically it is a funda. It's a high-end laptop, right? Instead of purchasing 10 high-end laptops, almost whatever the configuration which I said, it is going to cost a minimum of 2 lakhs, 2 lakhs Indian rupees, right? So instead of purchasing, or instead of spending, or instead of investing 2 into 10, 20 lakhs, what I would say, what I can do, like let us assume that this particular project, it is going to run only for a couple of months. For 2 months, if I'm spending or investing 20 lakhs, my entire profit will gone. It's gone, right? So rather what we can do is we will create the virtual machines. These kind of scenarios, I'm going to some vendor and I'm going to ask them, hey boss, I'm going to use, this is what my configuration. I want 10 different VMs similar to this, and I will pay you whatever I'm using. And even you can pay it for per hour basis, right? All the VMs are running per hour basis. It's simple to like, if I'm using only 8 hours a day, I'm going to pay only 8 hours a day. If I'm using 24 hours a day, I'll be paying 24 hours, 24 hours a day. So that is how it is. So it's a very big advantage, right? Pay as you go. That's what it's all about. So that's what here now, with this all understanding, come back to the explanation. It is delivering of computing services. Okay, like servers, storage, databases, networking. Like servers, I said VM and all. Storage, it is nothing but think like your Google Photos. Google Photos is the perfect example of cloud storage. Instead of keeping all your photos in your mobile, in your hard drive, mobile, I would call it as it is in your device, you are uploading all your photos into the Google Photo. Why you are doing it? You want to keep those photos very safe, right? If you lose your mobile, you may lose along with your mobile, what else it is going? Your data is also going. But in this case, your data is being saved in the cloud, and whenever you are losing, or whenever your mobile has been theft, or mobile it has been broken, we don't need to worry about it, right? I'll buy a new Android mobile as soon as I sync, as soon as I enter my user credentials, as soon as I add my account, all my photos and contacts and every calendars, my mail items, all these things are getting synced. It's very simple, right? It is the very coolest example, I would say. The best advantage of cloud computing, and day to day, without knowing that it is a cloud computing, we are using that. Like now, with that assumption, let us come back. So the storage, we can call it as cloud photos, and the databases, I would go ahead and create some SQL DB or Postgres or like there are many other databases which we can create it on the cloud. And the networking, I don't even need to worry about networking at all. Like basically, as I said, when I create a 10 different VM, I want all these 10 VMs to be on the same domain, and I want to establish the networking. Like all these things should be discoverable through the network. So providing all these things, as a developer, I'm not aware of it. Frankly speaking, I don't know anything about the networking. Here you don't need to know anything about networking. That's the one of the coolest thing, right? So as I say, like if I'm starting my company, I'm going to be the owner of that company. As a owner or as a chief developer, I don't need to worry about the networking and all these things has been taken care by the vendor itself. That is called the networking. And the software, yes, of course, the licensing of your Windows and the licensing of your Office 365, all these things were taken care by the vendor itself. All you need to do is, like, obviously we are going to pay for everything. Yes, I agree to that. The cost is one of the biggest challenge here. Yep. But again, if you have the cost, then you don't need to worry about all other things. That's what the understanding is. And analytics and intelligence, it is nothing but app insights, and the intelligent suggestions will be provided by the cloud itself. Okay. So these are all this is what the cloud computing is all about. So let me tell you once again, it is nothing but the delivery of computing services. It's someone is going to provide me the computing services. What are all the computing services? It's going to be the server, storage, and the databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence. So all these things, how they are going to provide me? Through the internet, they are going to provide me. And why they are providing me? To offer faster innovation in the sense, instead of investing my time over the known things, I can invest my time only on the programming thing. And flexible resources is nothing but I can use only 8 hours, or I can use only 10 hours, or I'm going to use 24 bar 7. So it is very flexible. All the resources are flexible. And economies of scale, whatever economy of scale or pay as you go, or one and the same. Whatever you are using, you are going to pay for that alone. That is called the cloud computing is all about. And providing this, one important thing is capex versus opex. So capex is nothing but capital expenditure, and opex is nothing but operational expenditure. Like coming back to the same example, let us assume that I'm going to create a company, or I'm going to start a startup, right? So whatever the thing before starting the company or before getting the first payment, I'm investing, that is called capex. Like what are all the capex comes under? My table, basically my infrastructure or my furnitures, my office rent, the cost which I'm spending for my hardware. All these things comes under the capital expenditure. In simple words, the 20 lakh rupees I said, I'm going to buy 10 laptop. Each laptop is going to cost me 2 lakh. So 10 into 2, it will be 20 lakh. So that 20 lakh is nothing but the capital expenditure. Instead of investing 20 lakhs into the laptop, I'm going to create some virtual servers or from Azure or from AWS. So I'm using it for 2 months, and 2 months I'm paying for 2 lakhs as a rent, or as a bill. I'm paying it for 2 months. Okay. So my expenditure is 2 lakhs. So that 2 lakhs, it is not a capital expenditure, it is an operational expenditure. To use or to day-to-day usage, I'm spending something that will be operational expense, and whatever I'm investing, that is going to be my capital expense. Now this cloud computing focuses more on the operational expenses rather than the capital expenses. Nowadays, with this providing, all of us are working from home and different cities, so which clearly says that the capital expense is going to be zero going forward, right? Only everyone will be focusing only on the operational expense. And the corona period, like whatever we are here, that's the best example. Whoever adapted the cloud computing a couple of years back itself, 100%, those companies were not even facing a single hurdle in this toughest scenario, right? Everything like as usual, the operations are happening in many of the companies who adapted the cloud computing techniques a couple of years back itself. right? So that's one of the best example or best advantages of the cloud computing. Okay, and hope all of us understood what is cloud computing is all about. At the end of the session, I know if even if you have any queries, we are going to address at the end of the session. But again, I'm giving a minute pass here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So here we saw what is cloud computing is all about and what are all the benefits of it. The first thing, it is the cost. The cost I am keep on explaining, it is a capital cost versus the operational cost, and we are going to pay whatever we want, whatever we use. So those are all the advantages of cost. Instead of spending the whole 20 lakhs, I'm going to spend only 2 lakhs. And tomorrow, the next week, if I'm going to spend more, or if the next month, if I'm going to use more, at that time I'm going to pay only the extra charges, like extra thing whatever I'm investing. So that's one thing. And the speed is nothing but we don't need to worry about the RAM, and if at all to increase the RAM speed and the global scalability, we can compare these two things into the we can take these two things into a single aspect. It's nothing but like whenever I need a 32 GB RAM, I can increase the RAM, and after my processing completes, I can reduce the RAM back to 8 GB, the normal 8 GB RAM. And if at all for us, all of a sudden, if we need 72 GB RAM, I can just by increasing the RAM and doing a restart of the VM, I'm scaled up my machine. And similarly, within fraction of seconds, I can scale down my machine. So, but one thing is, you cannot, like, you can scale up the hardware, but you can, like hard disk, like from 500 GB hard disk, you can increase to 600 GB. Once you increase, you cannot reduce it back, because the application or the cloud provider doesn't know what data and how much it has been occupied by you, and what data needs to be removed when you are shrinking it. When you are expanding, it's not a problem. When you are shrinking, it is not possible. The reason or the rationale behind that is, like, let us assume that you initially you have 500 GB of hard disk, you filled it, and you increase the hard disk into 600 GB. Yeah, and tomorrow you want to, no, I'm going back to 500 GB, I'm going to reduce it. You cannot do it. Why? Because the computer doesn't know what are all the things needs to be deleted when you are reducing the hard disk. So that's the reason they are not allowing you to reduce the hard disk alone. The rest of any computing capabilities, you can scale up and scale down at any point of time. And the productivity, what I can do is, like, productivity is nothing but, as a startup owner or as a chief developer, I will be focusing only on my development activities. I don't need to focus on the rest of the things, right? The networking, the cost involved, or the procurement. Basically, the procurement, it is a very toughest task, right? So all these things I don't need to worry about it. I can focus on my core development activity. By that way, my productivity got increased, and the performance, reliability, security, all these things are various benefits. You can read about it, and definitely all these things, again, it's these are all reliable. It is always the cloud is going to be reliable, always the cloud is going to do a good performance, and it is always secured. And you don't believe that the Microsoft itself, they are maintaining, they are guarding their data center using the armed persons. All the securities in their Azure data centers were given provided with arms. Like, all these things are legal, and so that is how they are maintaining even the security. In the sense, there are two types of security. One is the physical security, as well as the one is the physical security, as well as the data security, like whatever the data we are storing it. And the data center providing security for the data center, it is going to be the physical one, and providing security to the data, it is going to be the virtual one. So both these things, we don't need to care, worry about it, right? We are giving, or we are transforming the risk or the threat to some other person who is willing to take that risk as an opportunity. Okay, that is how the cloud operates. And providing this detail, now let us see what are all the types of cloud computing. the types of cloud computing we are having, like the type can be described in two different module in a two different category. Based upon the deployment model, it is divided into three types: a public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. And based upon the service model, it is divided as into infra as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and the serverless computing. We will see what it is all about. Okay, so now this is what we are going to discuss on the next couple of slides. So provided, let me tell you once more why it is this is very fundamental, and it is very important to understand this thing. So the cloud computing, it is having it is classified into two different broad category. One is based upon the deployment, and one is based upon the service model. And based upon the deployment, it is categorized into three types. One is the public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. And based upon the service model, it is infra as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Okay, and let us see what is all like what is the service model. Based upon the service model, what is an infra as a service, what is a platform as a service, what is a software as a service. Okay, so here the traditional IT, let us understand, let's try to understand what is the traditional IT first, and then we will go to what is infra, platform, and software. That will become more easy. So here I have the fundamental is networking. Then I need to procure the storage. Then I need to build the servers. Then I need to focus on the virtualizations. Then I need to focus on the operating system. Then I need to focus on the middleware and the runtime and the data. And on top of all these things, I'm going to build my application. Okay, in traditional IT development, almost 5 to 10 years back, till 5 to 10 years back, all these things will be taken care by as whoever the performing organization. I would call it as the performing organization, or the vendor, or the software provider, whatever you call it as. Okay, and so it is my responsibility as a project delivery guy. It is my responsibility from the networking till the application. But actually, as a developer, what I will be focusing, I may focus on the data layer, and I may focus on the application. The rest of the things, it is I'm not familiar with that, right? Being a C# or being a JavaScript developer, if I ask someone to fix something on the network, he will definitely he will kill me. Yeah, all of us agree to that, because he will clearly say that, boss, I'm a Java developer, I'm a .NET developer, I'm a JavaScript developer. How come you expect me to fix something in the networking? Right? It's not my responsibility. That's how nowadays people have started saying. Why? Because for these kind of hurdles, we will see what is an infra as a service. So I'm going to transfer few of the responsibilities to some vendor. Okay, that vendor, as of now, we can call that vendor as either Amazon, or Microsoft, or Oracle, or IBM, or Alibaba, whoever you call it as, call it as. Like for me, now I'm going to call them as a vendor. Few of the responsibilities I'm transferring to the vendor. What are all the responsibilities? The networking, storage, servers, and virtualizations I'm transferring to the vendor. Basically, I'm transferring my hardware alone to the vendor. And once I receive the hardware, operating system, again, it is operating system, it is not, it is also a software, it is not treated as a hardware, right? So the software called operating system, and the middlewares, and the runtime. Runtime is also the either it is going to be a Java runtime, or a .NET framework, or something like that. And the data and the application, I'm going to own only 5 items: the operating system, yeah, the middleware, runtime, data, and application. It is somewhat easy, right? Now as like think of like think or correlate the very basic example which I said. I'm going to start a startup company. Keep that in mind for the entire process. Okay, as a owner of that company, now I'm transferring these 4 responsibilities to someone else, and now I'm able to focus only on the 5 items. One is the OS, middleware, runtime, data, and applications. Okay, that is called the infra as a service. After some period, after a couple of years, these vendors, whoever I talked about, right? The Amazon, or Microsoft, or Alibaba, whoever it is. So they came up with some more features. what we can call it as, they are trying to make me more lazy. So they come back and say boss, don't need to worry about OS, middleware, runtime also, we will take care of those also. Your responsibility is focus only on the data and the application. So then by this you will become more productive. That is what they are offering to me. And I call them, I replied to them, hey boss, I agree to that, it looks very good. What do you call it as? They said this is called the platform as a service, right? I'm taking care of your networking, I'm taking care of your storage, servers, visualizations, operating systems, middleware, runtime, all these things I am taking care of. All the platform to build your application and to keep your data, let me take care of it. And you focus only on the application you are building, and you focus only on the data which you are populating. So that is called, I'm providing the entire platform as a service, and you're going to pay me for that, right? That's very simple, right? Yep. And the third category, it is one more step ahead. Software as a service. The like software as a service, it is not for these software vendors like whoever else. It is for the consumers. For the consumer, as a software providing company, I am providing the entire stuff. Say for example, Office 365. It can also be called as PaaS if you are customizing your application on top of Office 365. But here the software as a service, you can the best example can be, we can take the Gmail. Yeah, Gmail, we are not customizing anything, right? We don't need to worry about the data. As a consumer, I'm talking about as a consumer, I'm the consumer for the Gmail. Google is the vendor for me, right? So as a vendor, they are providing the network, they are providing the storage, they are taking the responsibility of where the Gmail has been hosted, like that is called the servers. They are taking care of their own Kubernetes or the containers, whatever it is, and they are taking as a service vendor the entire stuff. All these things they are taking care. And as a consumer, for me, Gmail is nothing but www.gmail.com. If I type it and key in my user credentials, it will be populated with my inbox. That's what I know as a consumer. The vendor takes care of everything else. So that's what in traditional IT, we will be taking care of everything, and infra partially we are giving it giving the responsibility to someone, and then the platform where most of the things that will be taken care by the vendor. And the SaaS, I'm not at all going to do anything. I'm going to consume, I'm going to buy everything from a vendor. So that is called SaaS is all about. It's very clear, right? So we saw based upon the service model, the cloud computing has been classified into three types. One is infra as a service, which is nothing but few of the things will be taken care by the vendor and few of the things will be taken care by the software provider. And the PaaS, many of the things will be taken care by the vendor. And the SaaS, the entire stuff will be taken care by the vendor. As a consumer, I will consume that service. That's it. Okay. Now let's go to the deployment model. Based upon the deployment model, the cloud has been classified into three categories. One is the public cloud, one is the private cloud, and one is the hybrid cloud. So what is a public, private, and hybrid? It's the best example is public cloud. It is nothing but you can think of a multi-story apartment like the Hiranandani or Jain, whatever you can call it as. It is a single compound. Inside that, you will have 100 or 200 blocks or 200 flat, and every flat will be occupied by someone else. Say for example, as an user, as a like let me call it as, for my company, I name my company as sharepointpals.com. SharePoint Pals is my company. So for my company, I'm approaching Microsoft and I'm asking, hey boss, I want to create 10 virtual machines. And what they will do, oh, is it okay, fine, I will allocate you 10 virtual machines in a bigger complex. Like now you think of the Hiranandani, it is going to have 1,000 flats. And now Microsoft coming back to me and he will give me a number. hey boss, your room number is or your flat number is 101. Inside 101, I'm keeping you this 10 VMs. That is how it is going to be. If someone else, like let us the Alagnila ma'am or an Anbumani, they come back and approach Microsoft and they said, I started my own company, I want certain VMs. What they will do is again Microsoft will come back and he will show you like, hey boss, this is the 102 which you have your 10 VMs, okay, and this 101 it is allocated for me and 102 it is allocated for Anbu. Both the things will be available on the same building or within the same cloud. So do you think that it is secure? I don't believe this guy, Anbu. Probably he may enter into my room and he may see my VMs, whatever it is, right? So I'm relating this with a practical example. So this is not going to happen actually, but relate it like that. The public cloud is nothing but all your resources are kept in a common space. Okay, whoever wants to create company A, for them also it will be provided, the space will be provided in the same cloud, and company B will also get space on the same cloud. With these things there is a problem with the security. Company B, if someone like a very good hacker works for company B, they can hack the systems or they can hack and see the data which has been provisioned for company A. So that's one thing. And the advantages are, it is reliable. Yes, always all the clouds are reliable. We said it is scalable. Yes, always all the, either it is a public or a private or a hybrid, it is going to be scalable. Yes, it is inexpensive. Yes, of course it is a bit less expensive. And then it is location independent. It is location independent in the sense wherever you are going and you are creating, it gets created based upon the region. Yes, like today, if I'm creating some virtual machines in East US, like East US is nothing but it is going to get created on the Chicago, like a Seattle stuff, right? So it will get created. And the second VM, I'm going to create it on the East Asia, which is nothing but on the Hong Kong. Yes, the second VM will get created. Both these VMs are my resources only. So it is location independent. I can create anywhere in there are certain regions like every provider they are keeping unique name for this kind of stuff. Someone will call it as a region or someone it is call it as a zone, whatever it is. Basically region is where we are going to keep all your resources. Within a region there may be n number of zones and all these things we will see it at the end. Like that's not the focus for the today's session. Okay, so it is location independent. Okay, perfect. And now coming back to the private cloud. What is a private cloud? Private cloud. Now for the public cloud, I gave an example of Hiranandani or Jain apartment. And for the private cloud, I would call it as uh, the villa, the private villa, which you can refer it in the ECR, right? Like ECRs, there are n number of villas are there. So you can compare that as a private cloud. So private bangla, you can call it as, right? So it is nothing but whenever for me, I'm going to reserve a space and all these resources, whatever the resources I'm going to create, it will be within that space and it will not be shared with anyone. So that is called private cloud. Obviously, instead of a hotel room, the private villas or the private bungalows are going to cost more, right? So it gives you, whenever you call it as it gives me more privacy, then obviously the cost will get increased. That's the very biggest disadvantage of the private cloud. And moreover, considering the importance for the data which you are providing, like if I'm going to store my photos alone, will I go to the private cloud? No. If at all you want to hack my photo, you can hack it. But if I want to keep my payslip, if I want to keep my company documents, then I will keep it more secure, right? I will be ready to spend few dollars to make my documents secure, right? So that's the important, that's the decision making which we will go for the private cloud or the public cloud. And to answer this, we are going to keep the hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud, it is nothing but making the advantage, using the advantage of both the clouds. Either like whatever the advantages or whatever the good things you feel from the public cloud, I'm going to take it. And whatever the good things from the private cloud, I'm going to take it. Let us assume that the data, it requires more secured. Like it should be more secured. So the security or keeping the data, like in cloud terminology, if I call it as the storage, I will take it from my private cloud, and the computing I will take it from my public cloud. Computing is nothing but if I'm going to create an Azure function, which is nowhere going to create which is nowhere going to store any data. What it is all going to do? It is going to do some process alone. That Azure function, I'm not going to keep it on the private. I can keep that in the public cloud itself, right? I don't. So those kind of things, we will take the decision, rational decision between the public and the private cloud is called our hybrid cloud. Many of the Fortune 500 companies are following the hybrid cloud approach only, because no one is ready to spend more for like with respect to the private, and at the same time no one is ready to sacrifice their data just for the cost. So it should be a balanced one. The data for the storage, I'm going for the private cloud, and the computing or the scalability, I'm taking the advantages of the public cloud. So combining these two advantages, we call it as hybrid clouds. Okay, that's what the hybrid cloud is all about. And we said what are all the various vendors available on the market. Like there are n number of vendors. Among them, these are all the popular vendors. One is the Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, Alibaba, Google, and Oracle. And every one of the vendor, they have their own product. Amazon named their product as Amazon Web Services. IBM called their product as IBM Bluemix, and it's Alibaba Cloud, and it is Google platform, Google Cloud Platform, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And the last one is Microsoft. We named it as Azure. Okay, like we are going to see a lot of we are going to see a lot of more services from Azure on the upcoming session. Before winding up, let me give you at a high level what are all the services available in Azure. In Azure, the services, basic services are classified into three different categories. One is the insights or analytics, and one is the storage, and one is the computing. The entire cloud thing you can classify into three different categories. So the computing, it is nothing but creating the virtual machines, that is the EC2 instances, or creating a function app that is equivalent to in AWS they call it as Lambda function. In Azure we call it as function app, or creating a Lambda like a durable function. The same thing, it is available in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with the same name called the durable function. So these are all the various services offered by the vendor, and based upon our usage or based upon our requirement, we are going to consume those services. And as a consume those services itself, it clearly says that we are going to consume a particular service. The service can be either an infra, or either a platform, or either an entire software itself. And the fourth category we are going to discuss now is the serverless computing. Serverless computing, the best example for serverless computing is I'm going to create I have created a program. What it does is it will consolidate all the attendees from this Microsoft Teams, or whatever the weekly meetings which we have. It is going to consolidate all the attendees, and it's going to mark attendance, right? When it is going to run, it is going to happen weekly once. For this weekly once, every Monday or every Saturday, it is going to happen from 5 to 6. So the attendance exe, I'm expecting that attendance exe to get executed on every Saturday 5:30 or 5:50 p.m. right? If the class is going to over by 6 o'clock, we may expect the attendance to happen by 5:50 or 5:55, right? So the expectation of that particular exe to run is every week 5:55 p.m. and for for this one, it obviously it is going to run for a couple of minutes, right? Within 2 minutes, it will calculate the attendance, it will mark the attendance as present or absent, and then it will send an email, whatever it is. The functionality, basically the exe, it is going to execute only for 2 minutes. So this 2 minutes, do I need to create a VM? Or do I need to buy a server and host this particular exe over there and schedule it? Hey exe, you run only every Saturday, and every Saturday 5:50 you start and 5:52 you will end, obviously. So will I spend for a lakh for this? No, right? So instead, what I can do is I will create a service called function app, or I will create a service called the logic app, or I'll create a service as durable functions. These are all the various different services provided by Azure. I will create a function app, and that function app, it is nothing but it is not going to create any VM, or it doesn't require anything else. It is nothing but a URL or an endpoint. I would call it as API endpoint kind of stuff. Function app endpoint, you can call it as. And that endpoint, whenever someone hits from the browser, that function app will execute my exe. That exe it's going to happen only for 2 minutes. It will process, it will do some activity, and it will calculate all the attendance or the absence or the presence, and it's going to finish it off. So I will be charged back only for that 2 minutes, like whatever the time my exe took to complete, like whatever the time my exe took for the execution. If my exe took 5 minutes, then I'm going to pay for 5 minutes. If my exe is going to complete in 2 minutes, then I'm going to pay only for 2 minutes. So that is the serverless computing, right? Serverless computing is nothing but the repeated task or repeated exe, or like some repeated activity which I want to have, which I want to get executed, but I don't want to invest for the server, a separate server for that. Rather, I would create it as a service, and that service will be charged based upon how many minutes or how many hours we are using it. Okay, that is called the serverless computing. Okay, so with this, the summary. Now we are at the end of the session. We got to know what is a cloud computing, and we discussed about what is a private, public, and hybrid clouds and all. We discussed about what is the platform, what is a software, what is an infra as a service, and what are all the different vendors, and what are all the products they are given, and these are all the things we have seen. And what are all the services? The next upcoming session will be taking care of what are all the different services and what is the cognitive services. All these things will be taken care of by the coming weekends, and I would call like a please stay tuned for that. You will get more information about the cloud. Yeah. So with this, thanks for the opportunity.